Welcome to a Simple Therapy podcast. Real conversations, brave stories, and simple, soulful insights for therapists and anyone on a healing journey. I'm Sindee, licensed therapist, supervisor, and a fellow human figuring it out too. Around here, we believe healing doesn't have to be complicated, and that leading with your heart still matters. We talk about what it really means to be human in and out of the therapy room. You'll hear from therapists, mental health professionals, and people courageously sharing their personal healing journeys. Because whether you're the therapist or the client, we're all human here. Let's keep it simple and keep showing up. Hello, and welcome to another episode of a Simple Therapy podcast. I'm Sindee, and today we're doing a seasonal, heart-centered episode for therapists, especially those of you who are interns, new clinicians, supervisors, group practice owners, really anyone who is navigating the emotional landscape of this time of year. The holidays are beautiful, complicated, overwhelming, tender, and somehow all of that at once. And for therapists, they can bring an extra layer of pressure and responsibility. We're holding our clients, supporting supervisees, navigating our own family obligations, and trying to take time off while still trying to show up as grounded human beings. So today I want to walk through some of the most important conversations we need to be having as therapists around the holidays, especially for ourselves. Setting firm and ethical boundaries, managing crisis and high-risk work, checking in on burnout, supporting clients through family dynamics, and ultimately, staying human in this process. So let's take a deep breath as we enter into the conversation about boundaries, burnout, and staying human. Starting with navigating holiday boundaries. This is a foundation. Honestly, boundaries are one of the most loving things we can offer to ourselves, to our clients, and to our supervisees. I know it doesn't always feel like that. This time of year, everything gets blurry. Our schedules change, clients feel more anxious. Even today, someone asked me for 2 sessions this week. People might disappear for a week and then they want a session right before Christmas. Some clients expect more access, they want you on standby, and especially for new therapists, we can struggle with feeling like we are supposed to overextend. So, I want to name this clearly. Boundaries protect the therapeutic relationship. They don't limit it. Holiday boundaries help prevent burnout and confusion. They help our clients feel safe because they know exactly what to expect. They help us feel safer too. So here are some simple and powerful ways to help your supervisees or even yourself set boundaries clearly. Jumping right into these tips. Communicate your holiday schedule early and often, saying something like, here's my availability from December 20th to January 2nd. If you need support outside of these hours, here's what I can offer and what you can rely on. When you can give your clients this type of predictability and the resources they need, separate from yourself, that expands their range of options for support. You can update your voicemail and your out-of-office messages. Make sure your boundaries are visible. I know therapists who sometimes put on their office wall the dates that they're going to be out on vacation. As you make your boundaries visible, this helps take the pressure off of you. It keeps expectations clear. When your client gets that email that says, I'll be out of the office X dates, and these are the resources that you can use if you need additional help, again, it's a clear, guiding, and safe boundary. It's a way that as therapists, we're reinforcing our ethical guidelines around communication. The holidays are also not the time to start bending the rules you hold around texting after hours, responding on your day off, or allowing for those quick questions. We are caregivers at heart. I know you mean so well. I fall into this trap sometimes too, just wanting to do that little extra bit. And you know what? During the holidays, it's even harder for us as therapists because our cups are not that full. So if anything, this is the time to be even more grounded and hold on to those limits. Normalize discomfort around setting boundaries, especially important if you're the type of therapist that worries about being portrayed as cold or selfish. You won't be. It's really a way of showing and modeling for your client that the boundaries are loving responses. Feeling guilty doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It means you're practicing something new. We share this as advice for our clients, and I want to offer you that same opportunity to grow into the loving boundary. Also, finally, I want you to try to release the idea of being the holiday hero. We can't be everything to everyone. We can be consistent, clear, and caring. We really try to do this with our families, in our personal lives, and it's more important than ever that we do that with our clients, especially this time of year. And I say that from a really loving and heart-centered place. All right, our next topic is about managing crisis and high-risk situations. This one inevitably comes up around the holidays because there's extra stress exacerbated by triggers, by family, and so on. And all of this advice works year-round because, of course, crisis and high risk isn't just limited to the holiday times. Things that we want to watch out for are, of course, suicidality, self-harm, increased substance use, domestic conflict. All of these risks can increase during this season. And especially for new clinicians, there can be a lot of fear around this. You might wonder, what happens to your client if they go into crisis while you're not there? What if you miss something and you both leave on the holiday break? What if you ruin their holiday by making sure they get treatment and help that they need? What if you ruin their holiday by taking action? Have you ever thought that? Again, we need to look at this and really, in a gentle and realistic way, break it down. Again, going back to that notion that boundaries and care are loving responses. Number one, you are not responsible for preventing all crises. You are responsible for assessing risk, creating safety plans with your client, consulting when needed, and documenting clearly and appropriately. If you're a supervisor or a mentor, one of the most important things you can do right now is role play difficult conversations that your clinician, your supervisee, could be having with a client. Role play with them how they can ask directly about suicidal ideation. I just did this in a session today with a supervisee. It can be very nuanced. We can help our supervisees expand the way they might approach this topic, broaden their conversations, broaden the way they ask the question. You can also help them with the unsafe disclosures that clients give us over telehealth. What are we going to do if they tell us that they're not feeling safe or they're having a suicidal ideation and we're on a telehealth call? Well, this happens more often than not because so many of us do telehealth. It doesn't really change things. It just means you have to make sure you have all of your ducks in a row. You know, if you're going to need to do a wellness check or extend the session, that you have resources in place, that you have the data and the information in place, that if there's somebody close to the client in their home that is a supportive person that could help them access additional care and help. These sorts of navigational things about, safety and crises over telehealth are something that we cover all year round, but a brush up can be really helpful this time of year. Also, because sometimes our clients travel, hopefully they're traveling in state where you're still licensed and you can see them, and maybe they're at a cousin's house or, a grandparent's house in the same state in which you're licensed. Again, it changes a little bit with telehealth. So that's why at the holidays, it can be more important when you're meeting with somebody to make sure they're going to be in a crisis. You're able to help them given wherever they are and what kind of resources and supports are accessible to them. Another really important thing regarding crises are discussing increased use of substances during family gatherings, during holiday parties and get-togethers, how that could impact your client's safety. Talking about the hard truths of holiday triggers, of family dynamics that really can exacerbate a client's emotional reactivity, trauma response, unmet attachment needs. Discussing this with your supervisor, with a trusted consultant or mentor that won't judge you, that will encourage you to review protocols and figure out what you need to feel confident in your work with this client if they're in crisis. So keeping in mind, it's always better to get more consultation than too little consultation. I really encourage you to remember that you're not ruining your client's holiday. You're not ruining their gatherings if they really need some kind of extra intervention or wellness check or extra safety. Safety is going to come before comfort. Safety is a way that we as therapists show our clients that we care. Again, without overdoing it, but when we're talking about a serious situation. You are caring for your client in the most grounded way possible. Okay. Now, really, really important, burnout. We've got to talk about burnout for therapists as well as for supervisors and group practice owners and anybody in the caregiving space. And this requires us to shift inward a little bit. The holidays are beautiful and exciting and filled with so many expectations, so many big to-do lists, shopping lists, cooking lists. And for many therapists, for many people in general, they're also a season of big depletion. It's really easy to pretend that you're fine, especially if you're in a job taking care of other people, if you're supervising, if you're leading a team. And what do? What do we do? Even I have done this. You push through. You tell yourself, I'll rest after the holidays. And then January comes, and guess what? It hits hard. Suddenly, you're even more drained. Honestly, there is never really a break in January. I don't know where people get this idea, and we really need to change this myth, especially in, I think, the mental health space. So with that, I want to ask you, gently, truly caring, how are you doing, really? How are you doing? How are your supervisees doing? How are your team members doing? And I encourage asking direct questions during your supervision, during your group supervisions and your team meetings at this time of year. Questions like, what's your emotional bandwidth right now? What has felt heavy lately? Where are you noticing fatigue in your body? Can you imagine if you're in a group supervision sitting around the table and you ask everybody that? I think it could be really enlightening. And you know what else reduces the isolation? It brings about that feeling of, oh, wow, he feels this way. She feels this way. Okay, that makes sense. Oh, maybe we all are having this fatigue show up in our bodies because our bodies are telling us we need something. We need care. We need support. We need nourishment, nurturing, recharging. Another question. What support would help you feel grounded heading into the new year? I think this is really, really important for therapists. Think about coming through a whole year of seeing clients, 12 months, and then starting again. What's going to help them feel grounded? It's going to be different for everybody. And also really helping supervisees, team members, colleagues identify signs of burnout early. Irritability, emotional numbness, checking out, feeling disconnected from the work with clients, just kind of sitting there, dreading emails, falling behind in documentation, feeling overwhelmed, tapped out by small requests, and reminding everyone that self-care doesn't have to be big or fancy, especially this time of year, that they deserve self-care, that you deserve self-care. And so what could you try this time of year? Of course, this is good for therapists or anybody else, for all of us humans. For therapists, maybe it's a little break, 5 minutes between sessions. How do you have a micro rest? Maybe it's a real lunch break. Maybe it's not just having another cup of coffee. I'm super guilty of that. Maybe it's saying, you know what? I'm done with all of my documentation by 6 p.m. and you finish it up the next day. If you're still doing documentation the old-fashioned way, I highly encourage you to check out Berries. You can find the link in my show notes because it is a wonderful virtual scribe that will eliminate so much of your documentation worries. It's a great gift to you or your team for the holidays, and I have a gift code in there for you. Using Berries has actually changed my life and made me a better therapist because I'm present with my clients and I'm not worried about documentation. That is an example of reducing burnout. So, other ways that you can set those boundaries to reduce burnout are not responding to messages on your days off, not sending emails or responding to them on your days off, and finding a small ritual that is going to replenish you. This is different for everyone. Maybe it's doing a craft. Maybe it's saying a prayer. Maybe it's reading a mantra. Maybe it's lighting a candle before or after some session or something you do. We've got to find these. And even though it may sound hokey when I'm saying it out loud, I think it will really set in and you'll feel like, oh, I do need a ritual that could help. Burnout, of course, doesn't only come from too much work. It doesn't only come from too many demands on us, work-wise, family-wise, friend-wise, sports-wise. It also comes from having too little space for ourselves. And I have lived this. I know most of you have. And often we forget that because we just go into the overwork mode and we forget about ourselves. And we do that because we're caregivers too. And we're strong. And I'm encouraging you to not be so strong and to be gentle and to model this gently and just figure out how you could use a little slowness this season. And that can really go a long way for all of us who give and give to so many. The last topic of this seasonal episode is about how can we support clients through holiday family dynamics. This is really important. It impacts most of us if we have families, and for sure your clients who are either going to travel home to host their own families, clients navigating family estrangement, dealing with grief and loss, or celebrating in their own unique way. And sometimes that even can activate people. They have a new tradition and the rest of the family doesn't like that. We have to remember as well-trained psychotherapists that old family roles will always come to the surface, especially in gatherings. Attachment wounds get stirred, expectations rise, pressure builds, and we respond in old trained ways that maybe we learned as adaptive children, but they're not our higher functioning adult selves. And sometimes we don't know how to support our clients through all of this without deeply diving into trauma work. We love trauma work. Most of the therapists that I know love to go deep. And yet sometimes diving deep into trauma work right before the holidays is not the best. Who has the resources for that? And certainly your client may not, especially if they're preoccupied and they're really busy in their own to-do list. And you trigger something and then they're going to be carrying that with them without debriefing with you the following week because everybody's on vacation. This is just basic kind of practical good sense. And sometimes we need that. We forget about that because we get so engaged in our work, which is not a bad thing. And so I'm encouraging you, think about logistics and practical issues around the holidays. Help clients prepare for their interactions, not necessarily process all of the underlying trauma behind that. This is not the week or the time to unpack childhood trauma. This is the time to build coping tools, help with grounding strategies, give exit plans, and reinforce and role play those boundaries. Think about simple frameworks that can help your clients holds all of this together. Maybe if you're doing EFT, you would be able to look at the unmet attachment need that comes up under their reaction, but you don't have to dive deep into it. If you're doing IFS, you might be able to say, oh, what protector do you imagine is going to show up around your family? And just validate that. Oh, it's so great that your protector is going to work so hard for you during that meal. And I hope you can just give them some thanks and gratitude for that. I see how hard you're working. If you're doing CBT, what expectations are you holding that feel impossible around interacting with these family members? And you can also help your clients by encouraging boundary scripts and things that they can say when things get tough. A great example is, I'm going to step outside for a few minutes. I'm not discussing that topic today. This isn't a good time for me to engage in this conversation. Maybe they don't even engage at all. I actually had a session where we talked about scripts just like this today. And that's just before Thanksgiving. So again, you can also help your clients with recovery planning. What are they going to do before, during, and after their gatherings? Maybe they're going to do some grounding, breath work, journaling, texting a friend, leave early. All of these are coping strategies that we sprinkle throughout the year, but a heavier dose can be really helpful right now. We are not responsible for fixing our clients' holiday conflict. Your role as the therapist is to help them feel grounded, supported, resourced, and know that they're not alone. So as we wrap up, I want to take a moment to speak to you. You're listening. You've taken the time. Maybe you're a therapist, maybe a supervisor, a practice owner. I also know that at your heart, you're someone who cares, you're someone who helps, and you're a human just like all of us. And this season can be a lot. And I want you to know, if you're tired, it makes sense. If you're holding a lot, that makes sense too. If you're craving quiet, that makes sense. We are not meant to hold everything. You are not meant to hold everything. You are allowed to have boundaries. That is your loving right. You deserve the same compassion and care that you give so freely. So as you move into the holidays, I invite you to set one small intention just for you. This is not for your clients, not for your supervisees, not for your team, not for your family. This is for you. Maybe the intention is rest. Maybe it's slowing down. Maybe it's one day off without checking email. Maybe it's finding joy or softness, letting yourself be held. Whatever it is, honor that. That's the intention. A small intention, and then to honor it. So thank you so much for the work you do, for showing up in the world the way you do, for being here with me today. I'm so grateful for you because you make this podcast possible. And if this episode resonated with you, I really would love for you to share it with a colleague or maybe a student or a newer therapist who might need it. It's a great way to help us keep our field and our profession alive and thriving, because we are only good as therapists and as helpers when we're not burnt out. Well, thank you so much. And I hope you have a great holiday season. And remember, until next time, keep it simple and keep showing up.
Thanks for listening to a Simple Therapy podcast. If today's episode resonated with you, please subscribe, leave a review, or share it with someone who needs it. Your support means so much. You can learn more or get in touch at asimpletherapypodcast.com. And remember, let's keep it simple and keep showing up.